Welcome back to Briggs on Books. I'm Mike Briggs, the host of the show since 2008. We were just a regional Central California talk show, and COVID came along and forced us to learn Zoom. Now almost every interview we do is over Zoom and with authors from places all over the world, all over the country, all over the world. Our next guest has been here a few times, Ken Percival. Welcome, Ken.
Great. Good afternoon.
Tell me where you're located right now.
In Merced, California.
Oh, Merced, you're just up the road from us. You have, I'm just going to pop these up. We're here to talk about your new Kindle Vella book. I'm just going to pop up some of the other books we've talked to you about. Double Helix, there's Life Before Yesterday, and there was one more here somewhere. Oh yeah, here you go, Catalyst, that's right. Now, Kindle Vella, that's an interesting, I don't know if you call it a genre, the way everybody's reading and putting out books these days. Kindle Vella, tell us what that is.
It's short form reading aimed at a lot of youth readers. So, whether it's somebody that just has short attention spans, short time frames, it's a 600 to 800 word short form story.
Yeah, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end.
And then it's done in episodes so that it's episodic.
Okay.
And they release over a series of weeks.
Now, I'm going to put the cover up here, or I guess you call it a cover, the representation of the work. Tun Tavern. Tell us a little bit about what it's going to be about.
Tun Tavern is historical fiction. It's aimed at middle school and junior high school readers. So it's sort of aimed with that mindset for people that just want a quick read, something that they can instantly get into. And the starting conversation is an episode called Coup Palace. It's where Benjamin Franklin has a conversation with King George III. It gives the impetus for what might have started the American Revolution.
So, I mean, I know it's kind of, what do you call it, a novel approach, but these things really happened. A lot of the things in the book really happened.
Some of this is in historical record. You're right about that. Yeah. The fact is that Benjamin Franklin was the postmaster in the United States, and he was hired by the King George to run the post office for the British in the Americas. There were meetings that Benjamin Franklin had with King George. This one, there's not a historical record for, but it's certainly something that would have been possible, meeting him in his stables in a private setting. And sort of it kind of creates this idea as to how Benjamin Franklin might have been one of the primary folks to push through this Declaration of Independence.
Tell us a tavern in those days. I mean, today we think of a tavern as a bar, but it was way different back then. What was the difference?
So Tun Tavern was sort of like this meeting place, like a Masonic hall. Mm-hmm. So something that would be, maybe if you've ever been to a comedy club, if you can kind of imagine a space like that, they serve alcohol. It holds maybe 50, 60 people. Yeah. And just in the realm of colonial days, it would be rather noisy, and you would have, predominantly folks that were there to have a good time, but probably also doing business too. Yeah.
Now, some taverns actually housed people. People would stay at the tavern.
Yeah, like a bed and breakfast almost. You'd have lodges. So you definitely had business owners that conformed to whatever it was that they were needing to, however they could make some money at the time.
That's right. Now, Tun Tavern. Now, this whole Kindle Vella approach is Tun Tavern. You just have one episode so far, or are there several out there?
So there are multiple episodes that are already released, and over the Thanksgiving break, and then going into Christmas time, there'll be 13 episodes that will be released on about a weekly basis or so. So over this holiday weekend, people will get to see 5 more of the episodes.
Right.
So they'll get through very close to halfway through Tun Tavern, and then this will be followed up with a hard copy book. But in the meantime, it's sort of episodic, and it's sort of like, some of the streaming channels or just that daily TV show, except for you're using more of your imagination to get into the storyline.
By the way, before we came on the air, I was fumbling around trying to find you on Amazon and stuff, and you told me the easy way for our viewers. Just go to, it's right on the screen, 321book.shop. 321book.shop, and it'll take you right to Ken's Amazon presence, and you could find this Tun Tavern and all of his books, I would imagine, and you could order them right there. Now,
that's right. So going to that, you put it into Google, and what it will do is it'll drop you into the Kindle series, Tun Tavern, where you get right into the first episode, which is Coup Palace.
Well, I always like to ask authors who've made it, who've written several books. Most of us are still trying to get one behind us. Do you write all the episodes before you start publishing them?
In this case, of the 11 that I've written, I've gone through and done editing. So yeah, they were absolutely been pre-written, and then I dropped them in with a schedule. But with this series, it's a little bit different because I haven't quite finished. I haven't gotten to the end yet.
Okay.
So it gives me the opportunity to put out material and then continue to expand upon it. But with the great thing being is that once the hardcover novel is out, it's going to be an expanded version of the story.
Okay.
So it sort of fills in maybe some of the storylines that don't quite get the detail within the episodes.
Well, when the novel comes out, the hardcover, you're going to have one built-in group who've read all these episodes, and now you come out with the book, and there's going to be more in there for them.
More content, and really kind of being able to build out a little bit about sort of that historical fiction realm of what happened with the founding of the Colonial Marines, but then also learning a little bit more about Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah.
You can read about him in the history books, but there's a lot of color to this guy.
Yeah. Oh, there is. Yeah, I read a great biography on Franklin. I wrote about him in grad school, and there's so many things. Either I didn't remember or I didn't know. I knew he was postmaster, but I didn't realize he was postmaster under the king when the king ruled America.
Yeah, there were times that he would travel to Great Britain so that he could report on what was happening. And it was sort of an instrument, it was sort of an intelligence tool, too, for Great Britain. It allowed them to be able to kind of keep track of what was going on in the colonies.
So, and who's your target audience? So you said younger people might enjoy reading this because it's a shorter format, but what's your target audience?
So it's aimed at anybody that loves history. Yeah. And so I think it's what's nice about it is that you'll recognize some of the founder names, but then as you start reading it, you get to know about the lesser known founders. And so it's a mix of the men and women that were part of all of these little incidental ideas, whether it be the madams who helped collect intelligence to feed into the Continental Congress, and learning about the carrier pigeon network that was used by Continental Congress to communicate quickly. If you kind of think about it, these days when people read books and they step back a little bit of history, it's like suddenly it's like the technology has developed so quickly over the past 100 years, we almost forget that cell phones have only been around for 20 years.
For 20 years, yeah.
And so you look at like an instant messaging technique like carrier pigeon. That was the instant message during the Revolutionary War. Yeah. That was your quickest way to get a message. Your
instant message, yeah. Tell me about the research. What kind of research do you put in writing a piece like this?
With historical fiction, so the Library of Congress has a lot of great material, and it takes you back to the actual verbiage, like Benjamin Franklin and his letters.
Yeah.
And just noticing the simple little things like the fonts of when they were using printing presses. It wasn't like you have a computer today with different fonts. Yeah. Today, it's rather simple. You just highlight, select, and this is what you get. What you see is what you get, sort of thing. And then you go back to the printing press, and you had individual characters that you had to set up.
Yeah.
And if you ran out of S's, you had to go to the F. And so you'll see that a lot of the material that you see with the Continental Congress, they substitute the letter F with S. For whatever reason, they had a lot more of the F letters than they had of the S's.
Yeah, I noticed that. I didn't know why they did that, but it makes sense. They only had so many. So so fascinating. You're able to do a lot of the research, I mean, and build these stories around actual events.
It really, yeah, and there's being able to get names of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to just even identify a name and then build out that story for that person.
Right.
And without really knowing a lot of the details, you can get dates of birth and kind of know the time frames that they live. But aside from that, you might know who their spouse was. You might know who they consorted with. But beyond that, it's a matter of building out sort of something that is of interest. And it's all about just developing gossip in a way.
Yep.
It's like everybody loves spilling tea. And that's what storytelling is getting people hooked with tea.
Yep. That's fascinating. I'm going to read these, by the way. And I'm thinking I might be able to even read them on my phone, which would be kind of cool. I'm always stuck.
It's great because it's 600 to 800 words.
Yeah.
So it's great just even at, but while you're waiting for the turkey dinner,
Yeah.
you can get in 600 to 800 words in under 10 minutes.
Right. And then you can move to the next version, the next episode, I guess you would call them. And
there's just enough intrigue to really kind of pull you into it. It kind of creates that anticipation for, so what's going to happen next? What is Benjamin Franklin up to?
By the way, is this the first, what do you call it, the Kindle Vella? Is this the first one you've done?
This is my first introduction on Kindle Vella.
Yeah.
So it is sort of like, if you think of Facebook, it's a very controlled environment.
Yeah.
Where they want a lot of control around it. And so anybody that has an Amazon account can get right in. Otherwise, like Facebook, you have to kind of go in and get signed up for the Amazon. But once you have your Amazon access, you'll type in 321book.shop, and it'll get you right to the Kindle Vella Tun Tavern page.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to start it today, in fact. I started to say, I can't tell you how many times I'm stuck someplace at the DMV or waiting in line at the grocery store where I said, I wish I would have brought a book. But now I'm going to try that on my phone. If it works on the phone, I don't know. I assume it does. So I certainly...
Oh, yeah, it should. Yeah, I've kind of proofread some of the content on there, and it's nice because you can adjust the size of it. You can do the contrast so it's easy for you to read, just like you're reading a book, except for you have more control over the size of the print and everything.
Yeah. By the way, I'm going to put this cover up again, Tun Tavern, and I love to read about that period, the Revolutionary War, the pre-period, and the character. There's so many characters. We know the main ones, Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Paine, etc., but there's a lot of other characters that I'm sure we're going to be introduced to and learn about in this. So thank you.
Samuel Nicholas is one of those sort of unsung heroes. He's the first commandant of the Marine Corps. He led a battle in Nassau. So one of the biggest parts of the battle that he was in, you can kind of think of this guy as a death duty guy. That was what he really was. When you take a look at the end of the day, what was his contribution as the Marines? He was pretty much death duty, except that there's this one battle of Nassau where they were able to get British stores of gunpowder. And it was a huge turning point for the colonies because getting gunpowder was difficult. Yeah. And they got a pretty massive store out of that particular battle that they had.
Nice. Ken, we're out of time. I could talk to you for hours because this is fascinating and you're fascinating. Last thoughts for our viewers? Anything else you want them to know?
321book.shop. All you do is if you want an instant read, type that in. You can type it into Google. You can type it into your to when you type in the address for where you want to go. 321book.shop. It'll get you right out there to be able to read all about the beginnings of the American Revolution.
Nice. Thank you, Ken, for coming on the show, and thanks for your contribution to my reading list. I got a long list, but I'm going to bump this one up. You know why? Because it's shorter, Ken. Thank you for doing that. What a great idea, the Kindle Vella. We'll be back.
So, Mike, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. Get stuffed with plenty of turkey, and just have a great time with family and friends. Yeah. By the way, I want to tell people I've been saying this. Speaking of Thanksgiving and the holidays coming up, check out all of Ken's books because the best thing to give for you got to go to people's house. You always take a gift, a host gift. Buy some of Ken's books. Don't buy one. Buy 3 or 4 or 5 of them and hand them out as you go to your holiday events. So thank you, Ken.
And
thanks so much.
For our viewers, don't go anywhere. We have another author coming right up. We'll be back with more Breaks on Books right after this.